Joining us now is Maryland Democratic Congressman Glenn Ivey, who sits on the Judiciary Committee. Congressman, thank you very much for joining us. Let's start with the legal challenges and troubles and impending indictments, apparently more of them for President Trump. His superpower seems to be, Congressman, speaking of the former president, that the more he's indicted, the more trouble, the more scandal, the more outrage from his opponents only gives him strength. What do you make of all of this that's happening, that's swirling around Donald Trump, and how it's going to be approached in your committee, the Judiciary Committee?
Well, I might be making him stronger among Republican hardcore voters. I don't think it's making him stronger for the general election next November. In fact, I'm pretty confident that it's really building the case against him and ensuring that President Biden will beat him in another head-to-head race. I think the House Judiciary Committee seems to be trying to line up an effort to bring articles of impeachment against the president and potentially other cabinet members. I think those will misfire. I think the reference you just made a minute ago to the Clinton era, where they coupled the effort to impeach President Clinton with the shutting down of the government, totally backfired on the Republicans, and I think that'll happen again this time around too.
Yeah, it was 1998. I was there in the halls of Congress. They lost seats, did the Newt Gingrich-led House Republican Conference, and Newt Gingrich, the next thing you know, he was out. That didn't stop Republicans from moving forward with the impeachment at that time. So a political winner, that's a question mark. All right, let me ask you about this effort to impeach Joe Biden. You saw the president making light of it on his trip to Maine today. Do you think that the Judiciary Committee, led by the Republican from Ohio, Jim Jordan, is going to move forward and try to impeach President Biden, Merrick Garland, Alejandro Mayorkas, and whoever else comes into their crosshairs?
Well, it seems like the Freedom Caucus definitely wants one or maybe all three to be impeached. And, you know, the tail's wagging the dog in the House Republican caucus. You know, I think the speaker's struggling to give them enough to keep them on board, but without destroying the party as a whole in the upcoming elections. Unfortunately, I think he's given way too much ground to the Freedom Caucus crowd, and I think it's undermining the Republican caucus. So he'll probably end up trying to move forward with some impeachment articles on one of these three. I think they're all dead ends and damaging to the Republicans because there's nothing there. And, you know, there's no case against President Biden. I haven't even heard them try and articulate what would be a high crime and misdemeanor, at least at the committee level. So we'll see how they go, but I think they're heading in the wrong direction.
And, Congressman, you heard the former president tell a radio interviewer earlier in the show that even if he's indicted, even if he has been indicted, even if he goes to trial, even if he's convicted, there's nothing stopping him from running for president and, assuming office, reinstalling himself back in the Oval Office. What do you say?
Yeah, hopefully that we won't come to that. I hope the Republicans come to their senses and realize that this is a man who seems to be heading to jail on multiple paths in multiple jurisdictions, and they'll send a Republican nominee that is a legitimate candidate and has actually the right to, hold the highest office in the country. But it looks like the lemmings are going to run off the cliff. It looks like they're going to support him, and I do think he'll be defeated next November. So I don't know that we'll have to worry about that issue, but it's interesting to watch the Republican Party right now follow Donald Trump no matter what he does or where he goes. It's surprising to me.
Okay, let me ask you about President Biden. President Biden, the number one concern that many people have, according to polls, is his age. That people fear as though there's some cognitive decline. He's certainly slowed down. Do you think that President Biden is going to go through with the nomination process?
Absolutely. I don't have any reason to doubt that. I think he's seems to be doing well health-wise. Certainly the economy seems to be moving in the right direction, and I think a lot of the policies that they're rolling out, especially from the last Congress, are going to have a positive impact on the American people. So I think he's, frankly, well positioned to be reelected. He's got low approval numbers overall, but I think that's going to change over time. And especially if the Republicans put him up against Donald Trump, I think he's in excellent shape.
Well, Congressman Ivey, thanks very much for joining us on this Friday afternoon.
Thanks for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to subscribe. Click the red button to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.